our viewers, and a very warm welcome back to your favorite tele-education program, Home Study. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini. I'm hoping you had a beautiful weekend, a weekend of rest, and of course a weekend of catching up with the lessons that you missed, and are geared up for another day of learning, which is a Monday afternoon. And this is what your Monday afternoon looks like. From 2 p.m. until 2:30 p.m. we have Eswatini for the grades 1 and 2. From 2:30 p.m. until 3 p.m. we have French for the grades 3 and 4. From 3 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. we have Eswatini for grades 5 and 6. From 3:30 p.m. until 4 p.m. we have religious education for the Form 1s and the Form 2s. From 4 p.m. until 4:30 p.m. we have religious education for the Form 4s. And of course the last subject is biology for the Form 4s from 4:30 p.m. until 5 p.m. And to remind you about our social media platforms where we are live right now on YouTube and on Facebook, you can join us on those. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the WhatsApp number that will pop up on your screen from time to time. Now, like I had said at the beginning of my timetable, the first lesson of the day is Eswatini for the grades 1 and the grade 2s. Nozipho is already with me in the studio. Teacher Mabunza, that is. Nguvusele Nozipho njani namuhla?
Ngiyaphila sisunjani wena?
Ngiyaphila nami. Namhla sihloko sesifundo sethu sithi umsindvo.
Yebo.
Angathi noma ngiwushido kahle.
Ushido kahle.
Umsindvo. Ubheke ukuthi umfundzi wakho welibanga lekuqala nelesibili abe afunze nekupheleni kwalesifundo.
Kubhekeke ukuthi umfundzi akhone kufunza emagama eSiswati aphindze akhone kwabhala kahle.
Okay, siyabonga Nozipho. Sithembe ukuthi umfundzi ekhaya sovela usimele isifundo sakhe. Ngicabanga ukuthi ungacana nesifundo.
Ngiyakubingelela mfundzi. Namuhla sitawufunza ngemsindvo. Asicale ngekubuka isihloko sethu ke mfundzi. Sihloko sethu lesithi umsindvo sinetihlokwana letintsatfu. Sekuqala kubuyeketa umsindvo. Sesibili kubuyeketa umsindvo. Sesithathu ngumsindvo. Asiqhubeke ke mfundzi sibuke ukuthi yini lebhekeke ukuthi ukhone kuyenda ekupheleni kwalesifundo. Ubhekekile ke mfundzi ukuthi ukhone kwekuqala ukukhumbula umsindvo. Kwesibili ukukhumbula umsindvo. Yomibili lemisindvo lena wayifunza ebangeni lekuqala. Kwesithathu ulalela usho umsindvo. Kwesine kusho emagama lanemsindvo. Kwesihlanu kufunza umsindvo. Kwesithupha kubona umsindvo kulokubhaliwe. Kwekugcina kubhala umsindvo. Asingene ke mfundzi esifundweni sethu. Utawukhumbula mfundzi ebangeni lekuqala sifunze umsindvo. Usawukhumbula yini ukuthi uvakala njani uma sewunangamisa? Bona bonkhamisa usabakhumbula yini? Asicale sikhumbutane bonkhamisa. Asifunze kanye ke mfundzi. A E I O U. Asiphinze mfundzi. A E I O U. Asikhumbutane umsindvo sewunangamisa. Asifunze kanye ke mfundzi. Ta Te Ti To Tu. Asiphinze mfundzi wami. Ta Te Ti To Tu. Asiqhubeke mfundzi sibuke emagama lanalomsindvo. Nangake emagama lanalomsindvo. Asifunze kanye kanye mfundzi wami. Litala. Litala. Nawu mfundzi wami umsindvo T. Uyetela. Uyetela. Naka mfundzi umsindvo T. Litulu. Litulu. Chubeka mfundzi unake umsindvo T. Kutetema. Kutetema. Uvela kangakhi lapha mfundzi umsindvo T? Yebo mfundzi wami, uvela kabili. Lituba. Lituba. Nalapha mfundzi utawuchubeka unake umsindvo T. Lomunye umsindvo lesiufunze ebangeni lekucala ngumsindvo H. Wona usawukhumbula yini ukuthi uvakala njani uma sewunangamisa? Nangu-ke lo msindvo sewunangamisa. Asifunze kanye kanye mfundzi. Ha, he, hi, ho, hu. Asiphinze mfundzi wami. Ha, he, hi, ho, hu. Asichubeke ke mfundzi sibuke emagama lana nomsindvo. Uyawubona yini umsindvo H? Asifunze kanye kanye mfundzi. Lihala. Lihala. Nawu mfundzi wami umsindvo H. Holela. Holela. Chubeka unake mfundzi wami umsindvo H. Lihawu. Lihawu. Nalapha nangu umsindvo H solo uyavela. Holo holo. Holo holo. Uvela kangaphi ke mfundzi wami umsindvo H? Lapha ku holo holo uvela kabili. Huma. Huma. Nalapha mfundzi nangu umsindvo H. Namuhla sitawufunza umsindvo lohlanganise lemisindvo lemibili. Lokungu T na H. Lesayifunza ebangeni lekucala. Asengiubite lo msindvo lesiufunza lamuhla uthi T. Nyalo ke asesiuhlanganise nangamisa. Asichubeke mfundzi sibuke umsindvo sesiuhlanganise nangamisa. Sifunze kanye kanye phela mfundzi. Ta, te, ti, to, i, to, tu. Cabanga ligama mfundzi lelinalo msindvo. Ubonani lapha kulesithombe mfundzi? Lokhu mfundzi yini? Lithawula. Yini ke? Lithawula. Nangu umsindvo T. So uhamba nangamisa A. Uyawubona yini umsindvo lesiufunza lamuhla kuleli bito lithawula. Asichubeke mfundzi sibuke tithombe letilandzelako. Yini lena mfundzi wami? Lesithombe lesi mfundzi sikhombisa ini? Lithayi. Lithayi. Nalapha mfundzi wami nangu umsindvo lesiufunzako uhambisana nangamisa A. Sithi tha lithayi. Nasi ke lesinye sithombe mfundzi wami, ubonani lapha? Lesithombe sikhombisa ini? Emathayela. Ini ke? Emathayela. Nangu umsindvo t uhamba nangamisa a, sithi tha thayela, emathayela. Asichubeke mfundzi wami nekubuka tithombe tetfu. Nasi lesinye sithombe mfundzi, ubonani lapha? Lokhu mfundzi wami yini? Lithoshi. Yini ke? Lithoshi. Nangu umsindvo lesiufunza namuhla uhambisana nangamisa o, sithi thoshi, lithoshi. Nasi ke lesinye sithombe mfundzi wami, ngabe ubonani lapha? Lapha kuna banana, mangoza, tiqadze, anyanisi kanye nalokunye lokunyenti. Lesithombe lesi ke mfundzi wami sikhombisa ini? Imakethe. Ini ke? Imakethe. Emakethe. Emakethe. Nangu umsindvo t, mfundzi wami uhamba nangamisa sithi the, emakethe. Asichubeke ke mfundzi wami, sifunze na indzatshana lesitayifunza kanye kanye. Asifunze ke mfundzi wami, indzatshana yetfu iphume encwadzini yekusebentela likusasa liyakhanya, likhasi le41. Asifunze ke mfundzi. Mkhulu unike Thami emathulusi kanye nemathapha. Utsite akahambe ayothengisa emakethe. Gogo yena unike Mthokozisi lithoshi kanye nemathikithi. Thulile ume eceleni kwelithange. Sesiyifunzile ke mfundzi wami indzaba yethu. Sitawuphinza siyifunze kwesibili. Sisayifunza ke mfundzi wami, ngicela sigibhilitele emagama lanalo msindvo. Mkhulu unike Thami emathulusi kanye nemathapha. Mkhulu unike Thami emathulusi kanye nemathapha. Ngabe likhona yini lapha ligama lelinalo msindvo lesiufunza namuhla? Yebo mfundzi wami. Emathulusi, Thami, nemathapha. Utsite akahambe ayothengisa emakethe. Utsite akahambe ayothengisa emakethe. Ngabe likhona yini lapha mfundzi wami ligama lelinemsindvo t? Yebo mfundzi wami. Emakethe. Gogo yena unike Mthokozisi lithoshi kanye nemathikithi. Gogo yena unike Mthokozisi lithoshi kanye nemathikithi. Ngabe likhona yini mfundzi wami ligama lelinalo msindvo lesiufunza namuhla? Yebo mfundzi wami, akhona mathathu. Lekucala Mthokozisi, lesibili lithoshi, lesithathu nemathikithi. Thulile ume eceleni kwelithange. Thulile ume eceleni kwelithange. Ngabe ukhona yini umsindvo lesiufunza namuhla lapha mfundzi wami? Yebo ukhona thulile kwelithange. Sesiyifunzile ke mfundzi wami indzaba yethu. Asichubeke sibuke emagama laphume endzabeni. Sitawafunza kanye kanye mfundzi wami. Asifunze ke mfundzi. Thami emathulusi nemathapha emakethe Mthokozisi lithoshi nematikiti thulile kwelithange. Asichubeke ke mfundzi sibuke luhlavu lolukhulu. Utawukhumbula mfundzi uma sibhala emabito ebantfu, tibongo tebantfu netindzawo sicalisa ngeluhlavu lolukhulu. Nati ke tibonelo mfundzi emabito ebantfu. Asifunze kanye kanye mfundzi. Thulani thulile thandeka thabile thobile. Asichubeke mfundzi sibuke tibongo tebantfu netindzawo. Asifunze kanye kanye mfundzi. Thumbela thobela. Tindzawo ke mfundzi asifunze kanye kanye. Thekwini thunzini thulwane. Utawukhumbula ke mfundzi sathi akusuwe wonke lo msindvo lowubhala ngeluhlavu lolukhulu. Ngulona losekucaleni kuphela. Umsindvo lotaba lihlavu lolukhulu bese lo msindvo ubhaleka kanjena. Asikwendi lokhu mfundzi. Lokhu asikwendi ubhaleka kanjena lo msindvo. Asichubeke ke mfundzi wami. Sibuke nango umsebenti lesitawenda sikanye kanye. Gcwalisa letikhala nga tha, the, thi, tho na thu. Asibuke ke naligama lekucala mfundzi. Utawukhetha ke mfundzi umsindvo lesitawubhala lapha kulesikhala. Nde. Nguwuphi ke umsindvo lesitawubhala mfundzi lapha? Yebo mfundzi wami, the. The. bese ligama lifunzeka kanjena, silifunze kanye kanye mfundzi, lithende. Lithende. Asiqhubeke mfundzi wami, sibuke ligama lesibili. Nguphi ke umsindvo mfundzi wami lesitawukhetha lapha? Lime. Yebo mfundzi wami, T. Ligama litabe selifunzeka kanjena ke mfundzi, limethi. Limethi. Asiqhubeke mfundzi wami, sile. Nguphi umsindvo lesitawubhala mfundzi wami lapha esikhaleni? Yebo mfundzi wami, ngumsindvo 2. Bese ligama lifunzeka lithi bethusile. Bethusile. Asiqhubeke mfundzi wami, sibuke ligama lelilandzelako, nge. Nguphi ke umsindvo lesitawubhala lapha mfundzi wami? Yebo mfundzi wami, tha. Bese ligama lifunzeka kanjena, lithange. Lithange. Asiqhubeke mfundzi wami, sibuke nali lekugcina, bile. Bile. Nguphi ke umsindvo lesitawukhetha lapha mfundzi wami? Yebo mfundzi wami, tha. Ukhumbule ke mfundzi wami, leli libito lemuntu Thabile. Sithite emabito ebantfu siwacala ngeluhlavu lolukhulu. Yebo mfundzi wami, asiqhubeke sikhumbutane lesikufundzile ngekuthi siphethe. Sifunze umsindvo T. Sawubona unanghamisa. Asifunze kanye kanye ke mfundzi. Tha, the, thi, tho, thu. Asiphinze mfundzi. Tha, the, thi, tho, thu. Sibese sibona emagama lana lomsindvo. Asiwafunze kanye kanye nawo umfundzi wami. Lithange. Lithange. Lithende. Lithende. Lithawula. Lithawula. Siphinze sabuka indlela lesibhala ngayo emabito ebantfu, tibongo tebantfu kanye nemabito etindzawo. Lokhu ke sitsite sikuqalisa ngeluhlavu lolukhulu lolungu T. Bese ubhaleka kanjena ke lomsindvo T. Nati tibonelo lesitibukile. Asiqhubeke mfundzi sibuke tibonelo temabito netindzawo. Uma sibhala libito lakho lelicala ngalomsindvo, sicalisa ngemsindvo lomkhulu T. Nanga emabito ebantfu lesiwabone esifundvweni sethu. Thandeka. Thandeka. Thobile. Thobile. Thulani. Thulani. Nati tibongo lesitibonile. Thumbela. Thumbela. Thobela. Thobela. Asiqhubeke mfundisi sibuke indzawo lesitibonile. Thekwini. Thekwini. Thunzini. Thunzini. Thulwane. Thulwane. Sesifike emaphethelweni ke mfundzi wami sekwesifundvo setfu. Kepha ke ngeke ngihambe ngingakanginiki umsebenti. Vula incwadzi yakho likusasa liyakhanya incwadzi yekusebentela likhasi le40 pheceleti le40 nakubili pheceleti 42 wende umsebenti wesithathu pheceleti 3 kulomsebenzi ke mfundzi madanisa ligama nesithombe udwebe lilayini. Ngiyethemba usithokotele isifundo sethu mfundzi wami lokuvalelisako nguthishela wakho elibanga lesibili noZipho Mabunza.
Siyabonga kakhulu teacher Mabunza isifundo sakho sethembe ukuthi bafunze ekhaya basithokotele kakhulu sikufisela ilanga lelihle.
Siyabonga nokwazi.
Siyabonga. Umfundzi welibanga lesithathu nelibanga lesine sengasonzela kumabona kudze wakho isifundo sakho lesilandzelako yiFrench kanye naye Mark Kiomba siyabuya khona manje. Welcome back to Home Study on Eswatini TV, and a very good afternoon to you if you have just joined us. My name is Eswatini. Right now we are doing grade 3 and grade 4 French with Mr. Mark Kiomba, who is already with me in the studio. A very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I am not even going to attempt what the topic is. So you are going to tell us what today's topic is and what you're expecting your grade 3s and your grade 4s to have learned by the end of the
Okay, today it's our last lesson, French lesson. So today basically it's a revision
Okay.
and I will give an assessment.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So by the end of today's lesson, learners should be able to greet one another in French. They should be able to introduce themselves, introduce their family members. They should be able to talk about their schools, describe the school as well, and they should be able to count from 0 to 20.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for that, sir. Grade 3 and grade 4, I hope you are ready for your lesson. And of course, to remind you about our social media platforms where we are live, which are YouTube and Facebook. And of course, grade 3 and 4, if you have any questions, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number. So you may please begin with your lesson.
Okay. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Monsieur Makole Kiomba. Aujourd'hui, nous étudions. Aujourd'hui, c'est la révision et l'épreuve. So, we are revising what we've been doing in French, and we are going to have an assessment today. So, listen carefully, and I hope and I believe that you have your exercise book, you have your pen, pencil, and a rubber. Okay, let's proceed. Today, by the end of today's lesson, because it's our last lesson, so you should be able to greet. You must greet one another in French. You should be able to introduce yourself. You should be able to introduce your family members. You should be able to talk about your school and describe it. To talk about the classroom objects, and also you should be able to count from 0 to 20. Okay, I will give you an assessment today before we go on through our revision. I will give you an assessment. So I will first start by giving you the assessment questions. You have to write them down, and as we are going through our revision, you'll be able to answer those questions, and then at the end of the lesson we'll try to make correction of that assessment. Okay. But before then, let us try to make correction of the homework that I gave you last time. Correction of homework. The questions were, I wanted you to answer in full French sentences to these questions. 1. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans ton sac? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans ton sac? Remember, I said in any question where there is il y a, so your answer should always start with what? Il y a. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans ton sac? Il y a 5 cahiers, une trousse. If there are so many things, you can continue with the list. Il y a 5 cahiers, une trousse. For instance, you can say un livre, ainsi de suite. 2. Question 2. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans ta trousse? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans ta trousse? Il y a un crayon, 3 crayons de couleur, and then the list is long if you have so many things in your pencil case. Ok. Il y a combien de crayons dans ton sac? Il y a combien de crayons dans ton sac? Il y a 6 crayons dans mon sac. Il y a 6 crayons dans mon sac. Ça, c'est 3. Et 4. Quelle est la couleur de ton sac? Quelle est la couleur de ton sac? La couleur de mon sac est noire. La couleur de mon sac est noire. That was our last question for the homework. Let's proceed. Now we're going to look at our assessments. So I'll give you the questions. Please note them down. And after that, we're going to go through our revision. And as we're going through our revision, you'll be able to answer your questions. And then later on, we'll make correction. Okay, let's proceed. Épreuve 1. The first question. Look at the picture below carefully and answer the questions that follow in full French sentences. So you look at the picture there, and then there will be questions that are related to this picture, and you have to answer them in full French sentences. Okay, let us go to the questions now. Comment s'appelle l'école? The school that you can see, l'école ici, cette école. Comment s'appelle l'école? Quelle est la couleur de l'école? Quelle est la couleur de l'école? 3. Il y a combien de fenêtres? Il y a combien de fenêtres? Et 4. Quelle est la couleur de la porte? Quelle est la couleur de la porte? That's the first assessment. Let's go to the second one. Épreuve 2, second assessment. Answer the questions below in full French sentences. Qu'est-ce que c'est? We're referring to this. Qu'est-ce que c'est? And the second one. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans le sac? Referring to this picture. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans le sac? Okay, and the last one. Épreuve 3. Use arrows to match the word with the picture. Nous avons une fille, un garçon, une mère, un père. So you have to use the arrows to match each word with the picture there. That's our last assessment. So as going through the revision, you'll be able to answer to your questions, and then later on we will make correction. Alors, let us go through our revision. Greetings, donc les salutations. So, les salutations, we have the greetings here and we have the answers here. We talked about salut, which means hi, and the response to salut is salut. We have bonjour, bonjour, which means good morning, which means hello. So the response to bonjour is bonjour. And we have bonsoir, bonsoir, which means good evening, and the response to bonsoir is bonsoir. And we have this wish, it's a wish, bonne nuit, it's a wish, bonne nuit, which means good night, and the response to that is merci. That was under les salutations, greetings. On continue. We talked about, throughout our lessons, we talked about les verbes, verbs. We talked about le verbe être. Focus on être. Être, and we dealt more of et and sont. Remember, I say et means is, and sont means are. And then we talked about some adjectives. Grande, petite, belle, noire, blanche, rouge, bleu. Grande means big, petite, small, belle, beautiful, noire, black, blanche, white, rouge, red, and bleu, blue. Exemple. Ma sœur est petite et belle. Ma sœur est petite et belle. My sister is small and beautiful. 2. Mon père et mon frère sont grands. Mon père et mon frère sont grands. My father and my brother are big. Alors, now, let us go through questions that we've learned so far. We've learned 10 questions through our lessons. Throughout our lessons, we've learned 10 questions. Let us look at those 10 questions. 1. Qu'est-ce que? Qu'est-ce que? Which means what? 2. Now on qu'est-ce que, I've added c'est, which makes qu'est-ce que c'est? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Which means what is this? And 3. On still qu'est-ce que, I add il y a. It makes it qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Which means what is there? And then 4. We have comment ça va? Comment ça va? which means how are you? On continue. Écoute number 5. 4, 5. Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? What is your name? So tu is referring to you. Comment tu t'appelles? What is your name? 6. Comment s'appelle? It depends who we want to talk about. This is for the third party, the other person. Comment s'appelle ta maman, for instance? Comment s'appelle ton papa? So, comment s'appelle means what is your father's name? What is your mother's name? Et 7. Où habites-tu? Où means where. So, où habites-tu? Where do you stay? Et 8. Où étudies-tu? Où étudies-tu? Where are you attending school? Where are you attending school? Où étudies-tu? Where are you attending school? Et 9. Il y a combien? Il y a combien? How many? How many are there? Il y a combien? And this. Quel âge as-tu? How old are you? Quel âge as-tu? How old are you? These are the 10 questions that we've learned throughout. Now I want you to repeat each question after me. Let's start. Qu'est-ce que? Good. Number 2. Repeat after me. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Très bien. 3. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? 4. Comment ça va? 5. Comment tu t'appelles? 6. Comment s'appelle? 7. Où habites-tu? 8. Où étudies-tu? 9. Il y a combien? Et 10. Quel âge as-tu? Okay. Now, let's take one by one. We start with qu'est-ce que? I said qu'est-ce que here means what. And throughout the lesson, we talked about j'ai. J'ai means I have. So, when you combine these two, qu'est-ce que j'ai? It means what do I have? Qu'est-ce que j'ai? What do I have? So, you can say j'ai un stylo. J'ai un stylo. I have a pen. So, it's a rhetorical question. Qu'est-ce que j'ai? The question comes to myself. Qu'est-ce que j'ai? So, j'ai un stylo. Now, let's move to this one. Qu'est-ce que tu as? Remember, tu as means you have. So, qu'est-ce que tu as? Which means, what do you have? So, your answer can be, j'ai un sac noir. It depends on what you have. J'ai une banane. So, it depends on what you have. On continue. Let's go to this one now. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Remember, I say qu'est-ce que c'est means, what is this? Qu'est-ce que c'est? So, any question of qu'est-ce que c'est, your answer should start with c'est. Qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est une gomme. It's a rubber. It is a rubber. C'est une gomme. We are referring to this now. Qu'est-ce que c'est? We are referring to this now. Qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est un sac. C'est un sac. Let's go to the third one. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? What is there? We're referring to this. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? And remember I said the question where there is il y a, your answer should start with what? Il y a. Il y a un crayon. Il y a un crayon. Okay. Now let's move to comment. Comment means how. Comment means what. So it means how or what. Now, comment ça va? In this first question, this comment means how. Comment ça va? Comment ça va? How are you? Ça va bien. Ça va bien, which means I am fine. If you are not fine, you can say ça va mal. Ça va mal. Comment ça va? Ça va bien. You can still say ça va bien, merci. Comment ça va? If you are not fine, you can say ça va mal. Let's move to comment again. Still comment, but in this context now, it means what? Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? If your name is Sfiso, you say je m'appelle Sfiso. If your name is John, you say je m'appelle John. Comment s'appelle ton frère? Remember here, comment tu t'appelles is referring to you. Now here, comment s'appelle ton frère? What is your brother's name? Mon frère s'appelle John. Ok, on y va. Let's continue. Quel âge? Quel âge as-tu? Quel âge as-tu? How old are you? J'ai 9 ans. J'ai 9 ans. Earlier on you saw j'ai, I said j'ai means I have. So in French we say that. J'ai 9 ans, it means I am 9 years old. Don't say I have 9, no, say I am 9 years old. But in French we use j'ai. Ok, merci. On continue. Où? Où means where? Où habites-tu? J'habite à Hlangano. If you stay at Hlangano. If you stay in Manzini, you say j'habite à Manzini. J'habite à Babane. It depends where you stay. Où étudies-tu? J'étudie à l'école primaire Kachile. If you are schooling at Kachile Primary School, so j'étudie à l'école primaire Kachile. Let's move to combien. Combien. How many? Il y a combien de personnes dans ta famille? Il y a combien de personnes dans ta famille? How many people are there in your family? If you are 5, you said il y a 5 personnes dans ma famille. If you are 10, il y a 10 personnes dans ma famille. That was combien. Okay, now we have this question. Il y a combien de tomates? Il y a combien de tomates? Remember I said in a question where there is il y a, your answer should start with what? Il y a. So let's count together. You repeat after me. Il y a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So you can say il y a 20 tomates. Il y a 20 tomates. Okay. Alors, on continue. Now, let us give answers to our questions, to our assessments. Since we have gone through what we're supposed to go through, since we have the last lesson, we've gone through our different topics. So now we have to give answers to those questions that I gave you earlier on. Okay. Épreuve 1, the first assessment. Épreuve 1. First question. Comment s'appelle l'école? We're referring to this school here. Comment s'appelle l'école? L'école s'appelle, there's a name there. Here, there's a name here. L'école s'appelle l'école Jules Ferry. L'école s'appelle l'école Jules Ferry. 2. Quelle est la couleur de l'école? Quelle est la couleur de l'école? La couleur de mon école est blanche. Okay, you can see it's white here. Et la couleur de l'école est blanche et bleue. And it's blue here. Donc blanche et bleue. 3. Il y a combien de fenêtres? Remember what's fenêtre? This fenêtre. 1, 2. Donc 1, 2. Il y a 2 fenêtres. Il y a 2 fenêtres. Quelle est la couleur de la porte? Where is la porte? This is la porte. Quelle est la couleur de la porte? La porte est jaune et rouge. Jaune et rouge. La porte est jaune et rouge. On y va. Épreuve 2. Épreuve 2. Second assessment. Answer the questions below in full French sentences. Qu'est-ce que c'est? We're referring to this. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Remember I said it. How do you answer? C'est une règle. C'est une règle. Ok. 2. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans le sac? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans le sac? We're referring what is inside there. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans le sac? Il y a 2 livres dans le sac. Il y a 2 livres dans le sac. On continue. Épreuve 3. I said use the arrow to match the word with the picture. Une fille. What is une fille? Is it this one? No. This one? No. Wait, where is une fille there? Is this one? Une fille. So you match this one and that one. Une fille. It's a girl. Un garçon. Where is un garçon? Voilà. Un garçon. That's the garçon. Un garçon. Une mère. Une mère is a mother. So we go like this. Une mère. Obvious. The last one. Un père. So, un père. That are supposed to be. So, une fille, un garçon, une mère, un père. Okay, merci. Now, we've come to the end of our lesson. So, in conclusion, we've learned so many things. For greetings, if you want to greet one another, we've used bonjour, bonsoir, and there is also a wish that we've learned bonne nuit. So bonjour, bonsoir, the response are the same. Bonjour, bonjour, bonsoir, bonsoir. And bonne nuit, you say merci. And we've talked about je m'appelle. So if you want to introduce yourself, for instance, me, I can say je m'appelle Monsieur Mark. Je m'appelle Mark Makole Kiomba. If your name, if for instance I'm Sibu Siso, I say je m'appelle Sibu Siso. And if you want to introduce your family members or the third party or another person, you say il s'appelle or elle s'appelle. If is a girl, you say elle s'appelle, for instance Nokopila, elle s'appelle Nozipo, elle s'appelle, so you mention the name. And if he is a boy, you say il s'appelle. Okay, we've talked about grand, petit, blanc, noir, rouge, those colors just to describe, in case you want to describe your school, you want to describe something with the colors. And we've talked about les objets classiques, un sac, une règle, la trousse, and the list is long. And we've also talked about les nombres de 0 à 20. I believe now you know how to count from 0 to 2020. Merci et au revoir.
Thank you so much, sir, for your lovely lesson. We're hoping your grade 3s and your grade 4s enjoyed that, and we're wishing you a lovely day, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Grade 5 and grade 6. Up next is your Eswatini lesson with Khanyisile Dlamini. We will be right back after this.
Ngabukela ke wash umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who pays for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and the gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Nguvusele mbukeli ngiphinze ngomukele ehlelweni lakho loluthandako i-home study lokufundza usekhaya ligama lami nginokwazi ngwakadlamini kanti kulesikhathi samanje sitawufundza siswati selibanga lesihlanu kanye nelibanga lesithupha kanye naye Khanyisile Dlamini losavele anami etindlini tekusakata. Unjani namhla Nkosi?
Ngiyaphila sesinokwazi unjani wena?
Ngiyaphila nami kakhulu. Sihloko sanamuhla sithi timphawu tendzaba licocako.
Yebo sisi.
Ubheke ukuthi umfundzi wakho abe afundzeni ekupheleni kwalesifundo.
Uma kuphela lesifundo sisi ngibheke ukuthi umfundzi abe akwati uhlelembisa kahle indzaba lecocako ukuthi ayibhale ibe ngulevakalako.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu Khanyisile. Sethembe ukuthi umfundzi wakho ekhaya sovele usilungisele isifundo sakhe. Cabanga ukuthi ungaqala ngisifundo.
Siyabonga sisi. Angikubingelele mfundzi ekhaya. Sihloko sethu salamuhla sithi timphawu tendzaba lecocako. Lokusho ukuthi sibuka letimvo letenda loluhlobo lwendzaba luhluke kuletinye tinhlobo tetindzaba. Sitawucala ngako ke mfundzi kubuka imigomo yesifundo sethu. Lokusho ukuthi sibuka ukuthi kubhekekene kuwe uma kuphela lesifundo. Kwekucala mfundzi ngibheke ukuthi ukhona kunika timphawu tendzaba lecocako. Kwesibili ngibheka ukuthi ukhone kutichaza phela letimphawu tendzaba lecocako mfundzi wami. Utawukhumbula ke mfundzi ukuthi esifundweni lesengcile besifunza ngemaphuzu ekuthuthukisa yona lendzaba lecocako. Sithite lolu lendzaba lecocako luhlobo lwenkhulumo lecocako. Ingendeka ukuthi ibhaliwe, ungendeka nekuthi uyayifunza lendzaba lecocako. Yona ke mfundzi siyibhala silandzela tona tingoni tekubhala indzaba letine. Ingoni yekucala sihloko. Lapho ke ngilapho sitfola khona ukuthi indzaba ikhuluma ngani. Ingoni yesibili ngiso singeniso lokuyinzima yekucala yendzaba. Kude sithi singeniso ngulesingiso kufanele sibe ngilesishaya emhlolweni. Simihehe siphinze sethule kahle sihloko sakho mfundzi. Kude sithi sishaya emhlolweni noma ke sinamdvonseni siba nembuto lothi ingabe utakwendekani. Asichubekeke mfundzi sibuke kuluphawu lwesithathu lokungumtimba. Umtimba wona wakhiwa dinzima letihleleke kahle. Ngulapho ke lokwethulwe esingenisweni sakho phela so ukhuluma ngako kabanti. Nembuto lothi ingabe kutakwendekani uyaphendvuleka lapha emtimbeni. Ingoni yekugcina nesine siphethwa. Lapha ke sewuyayisonga indzaba yakho. Kude lokusha lokuvetako lapha. Ungaphetha ngekuthi ugcizelele emaphuzu lavetiwe noma ke uwehlulele ngalokwendeke endzabeni. Kanti kulesinye isikhathi unganiketa sifundvo noma secwayiso ngalokubone kwendeka endzabeni. Ingabe ke indzaba uyihlela kanjani ungakaqali uyibhala. Indzaba yakho ke uyihlela ngekwakha emaphuzu. Lamaphuzu uwasebenzisa usayihlela lendzaba noma sewuyibhala. Uqala ngekufundzisisa sihloko noma umbuto. Unake uphinze udvebele emagama la kutshela ukuthi kufanele wendeni. Asibuke nasi isibonelo sembuto lesithi bhala indzaba ngenfo leyakuvelela leungeke uyikhohle. Umbuto wethu uthi bhala indzaba ngenfo leyakuvelela leungeke uyikhohle. Lapha emagama labalulekile ngulawa lathi ngenfo leungeke uyikhohle. Ngiwo ke latakusita ubona lokho lokudzingekako kulendzaba yakho. Uthi ungakubona lamagama ubese uyachubeka ubhala onke emaphuzu locabanga ukuthi ahambisana nesihloko. Ukuchubeka kwesithathu uyawabuthanisa ndzawonye emaphuzu lahambelanako ude ukhone kuhlela tinzima takho. Uwahlelembisa kahle emaphuzu akho ahambisane kahle avete umcondvo munye ngoba phela inzima yakhiwa ngomcondvo munye. Lapho ke sowungangeta noma ufake emagama latakusita kukhulisa emaphuzu akho. Sewungayibhala ke indzaba yakho. Ibonakala ngani ke indzaba lecocako? Ibonakala ngani indzaba lecocako? Lokusho ukuthi sibuka timphawu tendzaba lecocako. Tintfo letenta kutsi sithi indzaba lecocako. Tintfo letenta kutsi sithi indzaba lecocako. Sitawucala ke mfundzi sibuke letimphawu tayo. Wekucala balingisi. Wesibili indzawo lapho indzaba yendeka khona nesikhatsi leyendeka ngaso. Kwesithathu tigigaba. Ibheke ukuthi iphinze ibe nesehlakalo lokuyinkinga noma tinkinga. Kwesihlanu sisombululo lesithi sicongo sendzaba. Asesibuke ke njengoba sesitibalile nati timphawu tethu sesitawubuka luphawu ngalunye siluchaze uthi luyini nekuthi lubhalwa njani. Sithite wekucala sinebalingisi. Yini ke balingisi? Ngulabantu lobasebenzisa endzabeni yakho noma badlali labakha indzaba bayisite ukuthi ithuthuke. Balingisi ke kungaba ngumlingisi lomkhulu, lokungilomlingisi logcamile, lona ngilomlingisi lotsinzana nato tonke tigigaba letivelako endzabeni. Bangaba khona labanye labasita ukuthi indzaba ichubeke. Balingisi benda lokutsite lokutawuthuthukisa indzaba yakho. Ababinzi endzabeni kufanele kube khona labakushoko. Lokusho ukuthi usayibhala indzaba yakho kufanele kubonakale noma kuvakale inkulumo yebalingisi. Khumbula ke mfundzi ukuthi sikhulumile ngetimphawu tekubhala. lapho sivetile khona ukuthi uma sibhala indzaba siyativeta timpawu tekubhala sitisebentisa ngaso sonke isikhathi. Lapha nje endzabeni yetfu lecocako letimpawu setiyavela lapho khona sithi uyalusebenzisa luphawu vulavala pheceleti inverted commas kuveta inkhulumo yabo phela abalingisi ngoba siyibhala injengoba injalo. Asichubeke mfundzi sibuke lolunye luphawu lesulubalile lwesibili lesithite indzawo nesikhathi. Indzaba lecocako ibonakala ngekuveta indzawo lapho kwenteka khona indzaba. Uma sikhuluma ke ngendzawo kungaba indzawo letawunikwa ligama njengekuthi kamanzini esiteshini lesikhulu semabhasi. Kungaba likhaya lemuntfu njengekuthi ekhaya kalukhele. Kungendeka kube yenteka endlini ekhatsi endlini kalukhele. Kanti futhi kungendeka kuthi yenteka enkhundleni yetemidlalo kaSomhlolo. Naka ke mfundzi ukuthi letindzaba noma letinhlobo tendzaba lecocako tehlukene. Kungaba khona leveta simo sekujabula lokusho ukuthi iba ngulehlekisako. Kanti futhi kungaba khona leveta simo lesibuhlungu. Lokho sikubona sisafundza yona indzaba mfundzi. Naka ke mfundzi ukuthi kufanele kuvele nesikhathi lokwenteka ngaso indzaba. Uma sikhuluma ngesikhathi singakhuluma ngetinyanga temnyaka. Singakhuluma ngetikhathi temnyaka njengekuthi indzaba yenteka ehlobo noma ebusika. Kanti futhi singakhuluma ngetikhathi telilanga netikhathi teliwashi nato siyatisebentisa. Lokunye lokubalulekile lekufanele ukunake mfundzi ukuthi letimpawu leti lesicetha kutibala lokubalingisi indzawo kanye nesikhathi tona kufanele ukuthi tivele esingenisweni sendzaba. Khumbula ke ukuthi singeniso lesingiso sibhalwa simhehe lofundzako siba namdvonseni. Ngulesinjani singeniso lesinamdvonseni mfundzi? Singeniso lesinamdvonseni ngulesishiya umbuto lothi ingabe kutakwendekani. Kufanele siphindze sivete umshikashika lotsite locondzene nalomlingisi lomkhulu logcamile mfundzi. Asesibuke nasi isibonelo sesingeniso. Sisifundze. Sitawube sesihlatiya lokhu lebesikhuluma ngokuthi kuyavela yini kulesingeniso. Sifundzeka kanje. Sasimile esiteshini lesikhulu semabhasi kaManzini. Sasesimangele ukuthi ibhasi ayifiki inani kanzi nelilanga selishonile. Yaqhamuka seyidla emagagasi. Bantfu bebabulala inyoka. Kwatise phela ukuthi kwakusikhathi sakhisimusi. Indlela leyaqhamuka ngayo lebhasi wawungafunga ukuthi lo mshayeli wale bhasi ude tincwadzi tekushayela. Safucana sesijake kugibela sibuyele emakhaya kanzi asikabudi elangeni. Mfundzi sithite singeniso sethu ufanele sibe wekucala sibe nemlingisi lomkhulu. Lokungilomlingisi logcamile. Lapha ke siyambona umlingisi lomkhulu ngulona lococa indzaba. Sisho ngani ke ukuthi umlingisi lomkhulu ngulona lococa indzaba? Asibuke umusho wekucala uthi sasimile esiteshini lesikhulu semabhasi kaManzini. Sichubeke nesingeniso sethu sithi sasesimangele ukuthi ibhasi ayifiki inani. Leli gama lelithi sasimile lo sa ukhomba ukuthi nalona lococako uyaphatheka kuloku lacoca ngako. Phindze sichubeke sasesimangele nalapha solo uyatsinzeka. Lokusho ukuthi nembala vele umlingisi lomkhulu lapha ngulona lococako ngoba uyaphathelana nako konke cishe lesikhuluma ngako. Sichubeke ngasekugcineni kwesingeniso sethu kunemusho lothi safucana sesijakele kugibela sibuyele emakhaya. Lamagama lawa safucana sesijake sibuyele solo nalapha uyatsinzeka lona lococako. Lokusho ukuthi nguye umlingisi lomkhulu. Siphindze siyambona lomunye umlingisi lo sitako naye endzabeni lokungumshayeli wale bhasi. Njengoba sivetile ukuthi kunemlingisi lomkhulu kanye nalabanye labasita ukuthi indzaba ichubeke. Siphinze sathi indzaba kufanele ivete indzawo nesikhathi. Indzawo nesikhathi. Asibuyele kusosibonelo sethu mfundzi. Siyayibona indzawo esiteshini lesikhulu semabhasi kaManzini. Lokusho ukuthi nembala singeniso sethu singiso. Ingabe sikhathi sona sinaso yini? Yebo mfundzi. Nelilanga selishonile. Siniketiwe sikhathi lokusikhathi selilanga. Mfundzi, singakendluli kulesibonelo sethu. Ngitawucela sibuke kusebenta kwetimphawu tekubhala. Khumbula ukuthi sathi imisho siyicalisa ngabofeleba ngaso sonke sikhathi. Naka ke mfundzi ukuthi neyakami imisho icalise ngabofeleba. Sathi siyabafaka bongci ekugcineni kwemusho kukhombisa umcondvo lophelele. Nakuso sibonelo sami bakhona bongci mfundzi. Siphinze sathi luhlavu lolukhulu feleba phela siyamsebentisa kukhomba emabito etindzawo. Nangumanzini wethu ucalise ngafeleba. Uma sichubeka nekufundza nelibito lelithi khisimusi lelikhomba lilanga leliliholidi nalo licalise ngafeleba. Netinongo noma ke lulwimi lolunothile nalo luyavela kulesibonelo sethu. Uma sifundza sithola nasi sisho lesithi bantfu bebabulala inyoka. Bantfu bebabulala inyoka. Lokusho ukuthi bantfu bebabanyenti. Nembala ke mfundzi singasho sithi lesingeniso lesi singiso ngoba phela sinaye namthonseni. Lesimbona ngananga emagama lathi kanzi asikabudi elangeni. Lokusho ukuthi lapha lofundzako usala anembuto lothi ingabe kutakwendekani vele. Abe nengabunkabu yekuchubeka afunze lendzaba. Asichubeke mfundzi sibukela uphawu lwesithathu lokuthi gigaba. Indzaba yakho mfundzi sithi ifanele itifake tonke letimphawu. Siyachubeka ke netimphawu tethu sibuka tona tigigaba ukuthi tiyini. Uma sikhuluma ngetigigaba mfundzi ingabe sikhuluma ngani? Tigigaba ke mfundzi nguloko lokwendeka endzabeni yakho. Lokwenda ukuthi indzaba ithuthuke. Lokusho ukuthi tigigaba takho mfundzi tiyayithuthukisa indzaba kusukela ekucaleni kude kube sesiphethweni sayo indzaba. Tigigaba kufanele tilandzelane ngabolonina. Lokusho ukuthi tivela endzabeni yakho ngendlela letenteka ngayo. Letigigaba ke mfundzi sitibhala sisebentisa imizwa lesihlanu. Lokusho ukuthi usayibhala indzaba yakho sitakubona uva lokutsite kungabe kukhala kwendvu. Siphinze sikubone uhosha lokutsite. Lokusho ukuthi kutawuba khona lokukunukelako. Utawukubona lokutsite usayibhala indzaba yakho. Kanzi futhi ungatsinza indvu letsite. Kukhona nalongakunambitsa. Uma ufake lokhu endzabeni yakho mfundzi iba ngulemnanzi. Asichubeke nalo luphawu lwesine lokusehlakalo. Yini ke sehlakalo mfundzi? Uma sikhuluma ngesehlakalo sikhuluma ngenkinga noma tinkinga letitawuvelela lomlingisi lomkhulu endzabeni. Inkinga ke mfundzi ingaba yinye kepha ikhule uma usathuthukisa indzaba. Lokusho ukuthi iyakhula lenkinga uma usachubeka nekubhala indzaba yakho mfundzi. Asichubeke ke mfundzi sibuke sisombululo lokuluphawu lolunye mfundzi lwayo indzaba lecocako. Sisombululo ke mfundzi sona seyini sekungaba timphendvulo tenkinga noma tinkinga labhekene nato lomlingisi lomkhulu. Lapha ke sekucatululeka lenkinga lanayo lomlingisi noma labalingisi kulendzaba. Kufanele uvakale nekuthi bobani labasita kuthi icatululeke lenkinga noma ke letinkinga labhekene nato lomlingisi. Kuyavela ukuthi bobani labasita kuthi icatululeke lenkinga noma letinkinga labhekene nato lomlingisi. Kufanele futhi sibone ukuthi ingabe yini labayenda kumsita kude kucatululeke lenkinga. Sisombululo ke mfundzi ngiso lesikhomba ukuthi sekusonzele ekugcineni kwendzaba, sewudayiphetha indzaba yakho. Asibuyele kuso sibonele sethu mfundzi sesingeniso. Lokusho ukuthi lapha nje mfundzi uma usayibhala indzaba yakho ungachubeka kulesingeniso sethu lapho sikubone khona usebhasini, utawuchubeka kude naso uthuthukisa indzaba yakho ubhala tigigaba. Asinibone nigibela ebhasini, sibone kukhona lokunivelelako ebhasini, uyayithuthukisa phela indzaba yakho. Sibone inkinga lodibana nayo noma ke lohlangabetana nayo. Sithi sibonile inkinga siphinze sibone ukuthi ingabe lenkinga wasitakala kanjani kuyo, bobani laba kusita, yini labayenda. Lapho ke sesiyabona ukuthi sowusonzele khona emaphethelweni endzaba yakho mfundzi. Ukhumbule ke mfundzi ukuthi usabhala siyatinaka timphawu tekubhala, ngoba phela indzaba yethu kude siyive ukuthi ikhuluma ngani kufanele ibhaleke kahle, ibasebenzise bofele, ibasebenzise bongci, sibabone nabo khefana. Kanzi lapho kukhuluma khona abantu inkulumo yabo injengoba injalo, nakhona mfundzi uyabafaka bovula vala mfundzi wami. Asichubeke ke mfundzi. Utawunaka ke mfundzi ukuthi lapha sikhuluma ngetimphawu tendzaba lecocako. Lokusho ukuthi sibuka tintfo letenda indzaba lecocako yehluke kuletinye tinhlobo tetindzaba. Sisite mfundzi lolu hlobo lwendzaba luba nebalingisi. Balingisi ke kungaba ngumlingisi lomkhulu, kanzi futhi bangaba khona labanye. Kufanele kuvele indzawo lapho kwendeka khona indzaba. Kufanele kuvele sikhatsi leyendeka ngaso indzaba. Kufanele kuphinze kubonakale tigigaba. Tigigaba tona tilandzelwa sehlakalo. Ngemuva kwesehlakalo kuba nesisombululo. Uma sikhuluma ngebalingisi mfundzi sithi laba bantfu noma ke badlali lobasebenzisa endzabeni yakho. Kungaba nemlingisi lomkhulu, lokuba ngulomlingisi logcamile. Sithi ugcame ngani ke lomlingisi? Ngoba uyatsinzeka nato tonke tigigaba noma tintfo letivela endzabeni. Bangaba khona nalabanye labasita ukuthi indzaba ithuthuke. Uma sikhuluma ngekuthuthuka kwendzaba sisho ukuchubeka kwendzaba, siyibone icala site siyoyibona ifika ekugcineni. Siphinze sathi indzaba yakho ayivete indzawo lapho yendeka khona indzaba. Indzawo lapho yendeka khona indzaba. Indzawo ke ihambisana nani nesikhathi. Uma sikhuluma ngendzawo mfundzi kungaba indzawo la sihlala khona njengekuthi kamanzini. Indzawo loyisebenzisa endzabeni yakho kungaphinze kube likhaya lemuntu, njengokuthi uthi ekhaya kalukhele. Khona ekhaya naka kuthi indzaba ingendeka ekamelweni. Sisakhuluma ngelikhaya, indzaba ingendeka ekhathi endlini ekamelweni. Kanzi futhi indzaba ingendeka enkhundleni yetemidlalo. Lokunye ke lapha mfundzi sikhathi naso kufanele sivele esingenisweni sakho. Uma sikhuluma ngesikhathi kungaba sikhathi seminyaka. Kanzi futhi kungaba njengekuthi indzaba yendeka ehlobo noma ebusika. Singatisebenzisa netinyanga njengekuthi indzaba yendeka ngabhimbidvwane. Kungaba sikhathi seliwashi njengokuthi indzaba yendeke seyigabence insimbi yesikhombisa ekuseni. Naka ke mfundzi kuthi uma sikhuluma ngendzawo nesikhathi kanye nebalingisi, sivetile ukuthi letimphawu leti tona kufanele tivele kuphi esingenisweni sethu. Kude sithi singeniso singiso noma ke singilesishaya emhlolweni ukuthi siyativeta letimphawu letinzathu lesikhulume ngaso. Lapho ke lesingeniso kufanele sibe namdvonseni. Lokusho ukuthi lesingeniso sethu kufanele sishiye umbuto lotsite. Lowo mbuto ngulona lothi ingabe utakwendekani usachubeka nayo indzaba yakho. Sichubekile sabuka lolunye luphawu lokuthi igigaba. Sithi igigaba kufanele tilandzelane kahle ngekuthi tithuthukise indzaba yakho. Kulandzelana kwetigigaba sikubona ngekuthi lokwendeke ekucaleni kuvele kuyo indzaba yakho ekucaleni, kanzi lokwendeke ekugcineni kuvela ngasekugcineni kwendzaba. Asiphinze sisibone sehlakalo endzabeni. Yini ke sehlakalo mfundzi? Sehlakalo yinkinga noma ke tinkinga lahlangabetana nato umlingisi lomkhulu. Lapha ke letinkinga mfundzi kungaba yinkinga yinye ithuthuke isachubeka indzaba. Kanzi kungaba tinkinga letinyenti. Naka ke mfundzi kutsi lolu hlobo lwendzaba sitsite singalwehlukanisa. Kungaba indzaba lejabulisanako, kanzi kulesinye isikhathi kungaba indzaba levisana buhlungu. Sibheke kuthi ke mfundzi ngasemaphethelweni endzaba yakho kube nesisombululo. Lesisombululo ke lesimfundzi sithi ngikhona la kuvela khona ukuthi inkinga lonayo loma ke inkinga lumlingisi lomkhulu ladibene nayo usitakele kanjani kuyo. Ngekuthi kubonakale ukuthi bobani labasita ucatulula lenkinga levelile. Nekuthi yini labayenda ucatulula lena nkinga. Naso ke mfundzi timphawu noma ke tinkhomba tendzaba lecocako. Naka ke mfundzi kutsi nasiyibhala lendzaba silandzela nati tingoni letine lesikhulume ngato. Ingoni yekucala sitsite sihloko mfundzi. Lapho sethula khona indzaba. Esihlokweni sethula indzaba kutsi itawukhuluma ngani. Ingoni yesibili sitsite singeniso mfundzi. Singeniso sakho ngiso lesendlalela indzaba. Uveta kafishane lokho lotawubhala ngako endzabeni. Ngekuthi ufake uvete umlingisi lomkhulu, sikhatsi nendzawo, uphindze usishiye namdvonseni. Lapho uveta khona kuthi ingabe kutakwendekani. Sisala nembuto lothi ingabe kutakwendekani. Ingoni yesithathu mfundzi sitsite ngumtimba. Lapho ke setinzima letihleliwe leto tinzima ngito sewuchubeka nokuthuthukisa indzaba yakho sowuveta tonke tigigaba kule nzima yakho. Ingoni yekugcina ngiso siphetfo mfundzi. Na ulandzelele tingoni leti ke mfundzi indzaba yakho itawuba ngilengiyo ibe mnanzi. Mfundzi angikushiye nemsebenti. Umbuto wekucala mfundzi wemsebenti wethu uthi ngutiphi timphawu tendzaba lecocako letibaliwe. Tibhale tonke. Ngutiphi timphawu tendzaba lecocako letibaliwe. Tibhale tonke. Wesibili uthi khetsa tibe timbili kule timphawu utichaze kafishane. Khetsa tibe timbili kule timphawu utichaze kafishane. Mfundzi sesifike emaphethelweni esifundo sethu. Ngiyethemba usithokotele lesifundo sanamuhla. Lunyenti lwati lolutholile. Angikuvalelise mfundzi wami, sitawudibana ngalokutayo.
Sibonga kakhulu khanyise lesifundo sakho. Sethemba umfundzi ekhaya usithokotele njengoba ushito. Sikufisela langa lelihle.
Siyabonga sisi.
Siyabonga. Sifundo lesilandzelako ye-RE yelibanga laka form 1 nelaka form 2 ungayinzawo siyabuya khona manje.
swag radar.
Hey girlfriend, call me. Hey, my name is Gigi Cunningham. And Gigi's a movie star I haven't seen in my life. I came here to say hello everyone. This is who I am. But let's go.
You want a piece of me? Yeah, you know you wanna
Hey,
me like you got
hey.
Run there, London, you with me? Power, now. Power bungo with the boom, pow. You ain't on my swag radar.
It is important every now and then to check, am I still in the receiving hand of God, or am I in the receiving hand of the lies from the enemy?
Salvation is free because Christ paid for everything, and that's true. But discipleship will cost you everything.
Love each other as if your life depends on it.
As a canvas reflects the nature of a personality or an artist, so creation teaches us about who God is.
We are made great by becoming small. We are exalted when we're humble.
Welcome back to Home Study on Eswatini TV. A very good afternoon to you if you have just joined us. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini. Right now we're doing Form 1 and Form 2 Religious Education with Nomfundo Dlamini, who is already with me in the studio. Also joining me in the studio is our sign language interpreter, Nomcebo Dlamini. Good afternoon, sis. How are you?
I'm good, Nogwazi. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Today we're doing the Sinai Covenant.
Yes, we're doing the Sinai Covenant.
Okay, alright. What are you expecting your Form 1s and your Form 2s to have learned by the end of this lesson?
To appreciate that whenever you have done something wrong with God, you always ask for forgiveness. God is a forgiving God, as they will see Him forgiving the Israelites today.
Alright, thank you for that, Nomfundo, Form 1s and Form 2s. I hope you are ready for your lesson. Of course, to remind you that not only are we live on Eswatini TV, but we're also live on YouTube and on Facebook. You can join us on those platforms as well. And if you have any questions, Form 1s and Form 2s, please feel free to use the WhatsApp number. You may please begin with your lesson.
Thank you so much, Nogwazi. Very warm welcome, my dear Form 1s and Form 2s, to our religious education lesson. Today we are continuing with the Sinai Covenant. We are specifically looking at the breaking and the renewal of the Sinai Covenant. I do hope that your Bibles are with you already, with your book 1 and your notebooks, of course. Before we begin our lesson, let us look at the lesson objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe how the Israelites broke the covenant. You should describe how the Israelites broke the Sinai Covenant, which we saw being made last week. We should be able to explain the consequences of breaking the Sinai Covenant, because it had consequences. We will also analyze Moses' character. It will show the breaking and the renewal of the Sinai Covenant will show us the kind of man that Moses is. We will also be able to explain how the covenant was renewed. After the breaking, then there came a time for them to renew the covenant that they'd broken. And also we will look at lessons drawn from the breaking and the renewal of the Sinai Covenant. You will remember, my dear learners, that in our previous lesson we saw God making a covenant with the Israelites, and this is the covenant that we will see being broken by the Israelites again. What do you remember about the contents of the covenant that was made? Of course, you will remember that God made promises to the Israelites that if they obey him and worship only him, he is going to protect them, and he was going to give the land of Canaan to them. You will remember also that God said that they should worship no gods, and he gave them the 10 commandments, which we saw last week. So that was those were the contents of the Sinai covenant. So today we will see the Israelites breaking the covenant, the agreement that they have made with God. Okay, if we go to the book of Exodus chapter 32, I will ask you to read the whole chapter after this lesson if you have not read in preparation for this lesson, because I've just made a summary. I did not put the whole scripture here. Okay, when you read from the book of Exodus 32 verse 1 to 35, you will find that as always we've seen that Moses will go up to the mountain to talk to God. God will always communicate with the Israelites through Moses. So God always gave instructions to Moses. Even the 10 commandments, you will remember that God gave them to Moses. So as usual, Moses went up the mountain to be with God. But in this case, Moses spent so many days with God here. He spent 40 days with God without going down to the people. And you will remember, dear learners, that the Israelites were used to having Moses around, Moses being their leader, Moses instructing them. Whenever there was a problem, they will call upon him. Whenever there was a crisis, they told that to Moses. Now imagine 40 days Moses is no longer with them. So that became a very long period for the Israelites, and they were very impatient. So when Moses had gone for such a long time, and the people saw that Moses was not coming back, so they gathered together around Aaron, and as Aaron was Moses' brother, you will remember, and they asked him to make gods for them. They said, because now Aaron, there is no one to take care of us, there is no one to take care of our crisis, please make gods for us, at least gods that will hear us and not require Moses to talk to them. So Moses listened to what the people said, and he told them to bring their jewelry of gold, earrings, rings, necklaces from their wives, their sons, and their daughters. So that is what Aaron took to make a god for these people. So they brought this jewelry to Aaron, and Aaron used the jewelry to make a molten calf, and this molten calf they referred to as their god. Now that Moses was no more with them, they made a god for themselves using the gold from their earrings, rings, jewelry from their wives and their daughters. And this is what they said. Look at this scripture. This is what they said. These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up of the land of Egypt. Now they assumed that the God that they have just made is the God who brought them out of the land of Egypt. And you remember just the covenant they made with God the other day, 40 days before this day, that they should worship no other God. Now they've forgotten about that. They have made a God for themselves, and they even declared that these are the gods who brought them out of the land of Egypt. Then you can imagine how you will feel if you were God. Okay, since now they have made a God for themselves, they even built an altar before the calf that they have made as their god. They have built an altar for the calf. An altar is where these people used to make sacrifices. So this tells us that these people may even made burnt sacrifices for the god that they have made from the gold, from their gold, from their jewelries. And this is what they said: tomorrow shall be a feast to their Lord. Now when they say the Lord, they meant the calf that they had just made, that Aaron has just made for them. Now they referred to it as God, their Lord. Okay, so after building the altar that Aaron built before them, before the calf, then they were instructed to rise the following morning to offer burnt and peace offerings to the God that they have just made. And that is what they did. On the following day, they rose up early in the morning to do what? To offer burnt sacrifices and peace offerings to the gods. Not only did they offer the burnt offerings and the peace offerings to this molten calf, but they also ate and drank as they were making their sacrifices to the god, defiling themselves, eating burnt offerings made to a God whom their God had instructed not to worship. To show that they were happy and content with their actions, they rose up to play. This shows that these people were happy and content with what they just did. So God and Moses saw what the people had done. God saw that and told Moses what the people had done. Moses, who was with God in the mountain. So God was angry and Moses was angry. They were angry because the people were warned never to worship idols, never to worship any god made with human or formed from human hands, formed from gold, formed from silver. This is what God had warned them about. So God was angry and he instructed Moses to go down to the people, because now the people have polluted themselves. They have defiled themselves by worshipping and eating burnt offerings, or burnt offerings that they had sacrificed to their idol that they had made. So God was angry about that and instructed Moses to go down to the people. And Moses went down as God had instructed. We have already told you that God was angry. This was his reaction, because we have seen in our previous lesson that God was a jealous God, because he instructed the Israelites never to worship any other God but himself. And because God was angry, he made sure that his wrath will burn against these people and consume them. He made sure, he ensured Moses that he was going to destroy the people for what they have done. He was going to punish these people for what they have done. But he promised that he will serve. Moses would be the only person who will be spared. He will spare Moses' life and make a great nation from Moses. But Moses, being a good leader, the good leader that we have always seen, he pleaded with God not to destroy his people. He tried to make God understand that these people are still weak. This is still a new nation. They are still trying to be strong. They are bound to make mistakes. And God, being a forgiving God, he listened to Moses. If you look at this picture here before you, you will see the golden it's an image of the golden calf that the Israelites had made from jewelry of gold and silver. This is the molten calf that they had made. This is the molten calf that they had made. Here is Aaron, who was instructing the people to offer the sacrifices, and now they have placed it. Here is the altar that was built for before the calf, for making the sacrifices that they had made. You can tell that these people were very happy about their actions. Look at them. They are even blowing these things to show that they are in a happy in a happy mood. You have seen people who were going for football matches to show their happiness. They blow vuvuzelas like these people. These were Israelites. They will always blow shofars to show that they were happy with their actions. So because Moses had pleaded with God not to destroy his people, God listened to Moses. Moses was a person, a man after God's heart. God listened to Moses and he changed his mind about destroying the people. So God did not destroy the people because Moses had pleaded with them. So that shows us how much of a good leader Moses was. It shows us how much God is forgiving no matter how people have wronged him. So Moses came down after pleading with God and after God had promised that he will no longer destroy the people. Moses came down from the mountain. Of course, he was very angry because of the people's actions. His anger burned hot. This tells us that Moses was extremely angry. His anger burned hot. Because he was angry, he couldn't think properly. He will just blow things out of proportion because of his anger. This is what Moses do. A biggest mistake that Moses do. He threw down the tablets of the law and they broke. Remember, these are the tablets that contained the 10 commandments, where we've seen God writing them on the tablets. And because Moses was angry, the people had angered Moses, he broke these tablets. Not only did he do that to show his anger, but he also burnt the calf into ashes. He also burnt the calf into ashes and took the ashes, scattered them in water, the water that the people use for drinking, washing and bathing. He scattered the ashes in the water. As if that was not enough, he made them to drink the water where he had scattered the ashes. It's like he was angry and said, drink the God that you have made for yourselves, to show that this was a weak God, not powerful as the God that they were taught to serve. It was bent down, the ashes were scattered, and they were made to drink it. That God could not even fight for himself, could not even save them from the wrath of Moses. So that shows that it was not a powerful God that they had made for themselves. And we can see here Moses carrying the tablets of the law and lifting them up to break them. You can see in this position that they are about to be broken down. So this picture or this image illustrates the breaking of the tablets of the law that Moses broke. And when the tablets of the law was broken, it was like the covenant between God and the Israelites was broken. In the first place, them disobeying God meant that the covenant that they had made with God was broken. So Moses breaking the tablets shows that it confirms that the covenant made between God and the people was broken. Let us look then now, dear learners, at the consequences of breaking the covenant. What happened after they had broken the covenant? You can tell that these are the consequences that they faced. God was angry with them and God wanted to destroy them. 1. 2. Moses was angry and broke the tablets of the law where the 10 commandments were written. I've already said that this shows that the covenant was broken. Also, the relationship between God and his people was dented, was broken. God had a very good relationship with the Israelites, and remember, they had to work for 40 years to build this trust in the wilderness. Now they had broken the trust that they had built since they left Egypt. Not only that, if you continue reading, you will see that you will find that God was angry, was still angry. He needed to punish those people. So when Moses got down, he asked them to choose either to worship the calf, their gods, the gods that they wanted to worship, or God. A group of Levites chose to worship God, and God instructed them to kill all those people who did not choose God, and about 3,000 men were killed. Beyond that, God sent a plague upon the people. So that was the punishment that the people received for breaking the covenant, which tells us that breaking promises or breaking a covenant has consequences or leads to punishment. Okay. After breaking the covenant, because we've seen God being a forgiving God, we've seen Moses pleading with God to forgive the Israelites, then God gave them an opportunity to renew the covenant that was already dented, the relationship that was already broken. So they had to renew the covenant that they had broken. Because God was pleased with Moses, God decided to renew the covenant with his people, the Israelites. God, how did they renew the covenant? God made new stone tablets and recorded the 10 commandments again. So they ended up having the 10 commandments again. And God called Moses up to a special tent and made a new covenant with his people through Moses. Because God had made a new covenant with his people through Moses, the Israelites repented from their sins and they renewed their commitment to God. That marked the renewal of their covenant. And to seal that, they built a tabernacle to God to show that they are completely repentant and they are fully committed to God. They built a tabernacle of God, and God was pleased with them. So their relationship continued. Now we have said that we're going to look at the character of Moses that we can draw from the breaking and the renewal of the covenant. So let us look at Moses's character. We can tell from the breaking of the Sinai covenant that Moses was a short-tempered man. How do we see that? Moses was very angry with the people. He even broke the stones, the tablets of the law, without even thinking properly about that, because he was angry. But there is something good that we learn about this man. We learn that Moses was a very persuasive person. How do we know that? He persuaded God to forgive the Israelites even after they had wronged him. And God eventually forgave them and renewed the covenant with them. We will remember that God wanted to destroy them because of what they had done. But because Moses was able to convince God to forgive the Israelites, God ended up forgiving them and renewing their covenant with them. We can also tell that Moses as a leader was very loving and compassionate. We can tell that he was loving and compassionate. How do we know that? Moses did not allow God to destroy his people. Moses did not allow God's wrath and fire to consume God's people. He pleaded with God to forgive his people. Though the people had wronged God, though the people had angered Moses, but Moses still had that love in his heart for these people that he was able to plead with God to forgive them and give them a second chance, another chance to renew the covenant and to make up for their mistakes. And we also learn something about God. We learn that God is a compassionate God. after they had wronged him, he did not hold that against them, but God forgave them and renewed the covenant with the people. But God is a jealous God. He was ready to punish and destroy the Israelites for breaking the covenant, for worshipping another God, for making a God for themselves and worshipping that God, offering sacrifices to that God. Yet God wants people to worship only him. He wanted the Israelites to worship only him and offer these sacrifices only to him. We see God as a loving God because he was able to give them another chance. He is also very patient. What lessons do we get then from these incidents? Here we got to learn that people need to worship God alone. God wants people to worship him and him alone. This is a very good lesson for Christians. So if you read this as a Christian, you will know, you will learn that you only have to worship God and no other gods, because God gave that instruction and we saw that he was ready to destroy those people who were worshipping, who had made a God for themselves and worshipping that God. So we learn that we worship only God. We also learn that we have to always obey God. We always have to be obedient to God, since we have seen that disobedience results into suffering and punishment. Some people were killed. Remember, I said there was a plague and God was ready to destroy everyone because they had disobeyed him. So we see that if you disobey God, then you must be ready for suffering as well as punishment. A very good lesson also to Christians is that they must condemn evil. Worshipping idols is a very evil act, so we learn that it has consequences, so we stay away from evil. We also learn to be patient and have self-control. The Israelites were not patient enough. They decided to build a molten, to make a molten calf to worship it, because Moses had spent just 40 days, only 40 days with God in the mountain. This shows that these people were not patient enough. So this is a lesson to Christians that they should have patience and exercise patience and have self-control. These people lacked patience and self-control. That is why they ended up defiling themselves by making themselves a golden calf to worship as a god. So it's a lesson that you must be patient and always have self-control. And lastly, we learn as Christians that leaders should intercede for their people. We have seen Moses interceding for the people of Israel, pleading with God not to destroy his people. So that is also a very good lesson to Christian leaders. This then, dear learners, bring us to the end of our lessons. I have this assessment exercise for you to do at home. The first question that you're going to answer is to describe Moses' reaction when the Israelites had worshipped a golden calf. How did he react to that? And that is worth 4 marks. Also, the second question, you will explain what you learn about God from the incident of the breaking of the Sinai covenant. That is the second question, also worth 4 marks. To end our lesson, dear learners, let us be reminded of what we've looked at today. We have learned about the breaking and the renewal of the Sinai covenant, how the Israelites broke the Sinai covenant by worshipping a golden calf, and how Moses helped them to renew the covenant. We have explored the consequences of breaking the covenant, what happened after they'd broken the covenant. We looked at the character of Moses as well as the attributes of God. we've drawn lessons from the breaking and the renewal of the covenant. So this tells us then, my dear learners, that we have to prepare ourselves for our next lesson, which will be about King Saul. You may start reading in preparation for that lesson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nomfundo, for your lovely lesson. We're hoping your Form 1s and your Form 2s enjoyed it, and we're wishing you a lovely day.
We hope so too. I wish you that too, Nkosi.
Thank you so much. Form 4s, up next is your RE lesson with Samgeliso Ngumalo. Get ready, get comfortable. We will be right back after this.
At it again, once again, what it is, it's the biggest, the dopest, the freshest. The biggest, the dopest, the freshest, the sickest. It's the illest. Illest. It's the biggest, the dopest, the freshest, the sickest, the illest. Anytime on your TV screens, it's TBD. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Beatdown. Yeah.
Hi guys, this is Lyra and you're watching The Beatdown.
Welcome back to Home Study on Eswatini TV. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini. A very good afternoon to you if you have just joined us. And this is the time for the Form 4s, and they're doing RE with Mr. Samgeliso Ngumalo, who is already with me in the studio. Also joining me in the studio is our sign language interpreter, Nombumelelo Hadebe. A good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Nogwazi. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Today, our topic is restoration of life miracles.
Yes, my sister.
What are you expecting your Form 4s to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Okay, we are still looking at the ministry of Jesus. So the healing miracles and the raising of people is still part of the miracle of the ministry of Jesus.
Okay, so this is a subtopic.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ngumalo from Force. I hope you are ready for your lesson. And of course, just to remind you, not only are we live on Eswatini TV, but we're also live on YouTube and on Facebook. Join us on those platforms as well. Also, use the WhatsApp number to text us any questions that you might have. You may please begin with your lesson.
Thank you, Nogwazi. Good afternoon, dear Form 4 learner at home. Welcome to our today's lesson, Religious Education. As we have said, we are looking at the restoration of life miracles. So the topics we're going to look at here today is the raising of Jairus' daughter and also the raising of the widow's son at Nain. Now, dear learner, let us look at the objectives for today. So by the end of the lesson, dear learner, you should be able to give an account of the raising of the widow's son at Nain and the raising of Jairus' daughter. Then we are going to explain the significance of each miracle, explain how the character of Jesus is revealed in both miracles, explain how character of Jairus is revealed, explain how the nature of Jesus has been revealed in both miracles, and also explain lessons learned from both miracles. Now, moving forward, dear learner, now we are going to first look at the raising of the son of the widow of Nain, which is Luke chapter 7, verse 11 to 17. Now, let us look at the account. Jesus went to Nain and his disciples, and a great crowd followed him. Behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. A large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, "Do not weep." He came and touched the bier, and the bearers stood still. He said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." The dead man sat up and began to speak. He gave him to his mother,
fear seized them all, and they glorified God, saying, a great prophet has arisen amongst us. God has visited his people. This report concerning him spread through the whole of Judea and all the surrounding country. Now that was the account, dear Elena. Let us look at the source there on what we were talking about. Here is Jesus. Here is the widow. Here is the son. Here are the men who were carrying the bier. The bier, dear Elena, it's also, we can also call it an open coffin. Here is the bier, dear Elena. That is what we were talking about there in the account. Moving forward. Now let us look at the significance of this miracle. Now this miracle is significant in the sense that it is the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies about the Messiah. You can find that in Isaiah 35 verse 4 to 6 and also Luke chapter 7 verse 22. So when Isaiah announced the coming of the Messiah, he told the people about the good news of the Messiah, that when the Messiah comes, the lame will walk, the dumb will speak, and all those who have got with sicknesses will be healed. Then again we see here, dear Elena, Jesus himself fulfilling that. When Jesus came, he healed the sick. All those who were unable to walk, Jesus enabled them to walk. And then the disciples of John, they were sent by John to Jesus, asking Jesus if he was the one who was to come. And then Jesus told the disciples to go and tell John what they have seen and also what they have heard, that the lame can walk, the dumb can speak, and also that the dead are rising. And then we see that this is the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecies. And then another significance, it shows Jesus' power over death. Again here, dear Elena, we see that Jesus has got unlimited power. He was able to raise someone from the dead. But we all know that when someone is dead, is dead. But to Jesus, it wasn't like that. To him, it was just an ordinary sleep. Then moving forward, dear Elena, shows Jesus' willingness to ignore Jewish traditions in order to save life. Again, dear Elena, what is known here in Palestine, it is said that you are not supposed to touch a dead person, because that body or that corpse will automatically make you unclean. So it was something that was known. But here we see Jesus ignoring that tradition. When raising the son, he went and touched the son. Moving forward, demonstrate Jesus' compassion. Now here, dear Elena, we are told that the widow, this was his only son, and the husband of the woman also died before. So Jesus felt compassion that no one was going to look after the woman now that his her source of income is no more. So Jesus here felt compassion for the widow, so he went and raised the son. As we all know that our children are the ones who are supposed to look after us at old age. So Jesus here felt compassion that no one was going to look after the widow, so the life of the widow was going to be difficult. So he ended up having compassion and then raised the son. Moving forward, now let us look at character of Jesus as revealed in the miracle. Again, we are saying Jesus is omnipotent. Jesus has power over death. He is the source of life. Now Jesus has got unlimited power. He can do anything, as he was able to raise the dead son. Again, Jesus is compassionate. Jesus responded to the need of the widow. Remember, we said earlier that the widow had no husband, and also her only son is now dead. So Jesus here was able to tell, or was able to see, that the life of the woman was going to be difficult. So then he had to raise the son, so that the son would come back and look after his mother. And then we are saying Jesus is authoritative, commanded the widow's son, he immediately came to life. As he said there, young men, arise. Jesus is authority himself. He didn't appeal to authority. Just as simple like that, young men rise up, and then the men rise. Moving forward, we are saying again, Jesus is welcoming, followed by a large crowd. Now, Jesus did not chase away the crowds. We see that in the feeding of the 5,000, we are told that he was preaching and so many people followed him. He didn't chase them away. The same applies here. The people also followed him while he was preaching. So Jesus was welcoming. Moving forward. Now let us look at lesson learned from this miracle. Christians should assist those who are suffering. Now, prayer alone is not enough. When we see someone suffering, we know that there is a need. So identify the need. It can either be money, it can either be clothes, or anything. Maybe if that person is unable to work, you can clean the house, or you can visit him and do anything that will help that person. In other words, you are doing away with the suffering, just like as Jesus did here. Then moving forward, nothing is impossible with God. Raise the dead. Again, we are saying God has got unlimited power. He can do anything. Sometimes we have to forget about traditions that could be a barrier to eternal life. As we have said earlier, dear Lena, that according to tradition or to Jewish tradition, when a person is dead, you were not supposed to touch that person, because at the end that person will make you unclean. But Jesus ignored all that, and he was able to raise the son by touching him. Then we must be compassionate towards other people, especially those in need. As we live in this world, we all know that not all of us are lucky. There are people who are struggling in life. So we must always help one another. We must show love. We must show care. Moving forward, dear Elena. Now let us come to our next topic we are looking at now. It's the raising of Jairus' daughter. It is found in Luke chapter 8, verse 40 to 56. Maybe before, dear Elena, we continue giving the account, there is something that I want to highlight. Here, dear Elena, there are two miracles that are happening. Please don't make the mistake whereby you will end up writing the miracle, because it is said here it is a miracle within a miracle. So the miracle we are talking about also here, it is the healing of the woman with the flow of blood. Now, when giving an account, please make sure that you only give what the question asks you, not the other way around, because here there are two miracles. Now, when we look at your Bibles from verse 40 to 43, that is the introduction, which is key. Then from 43 to 48, that is the healing of the woman with the flow of blood. Please make sure that you don't put both miracles. You only do what is asked from you. So now I'm going to show you how we have summarized this one. Now let us look at the miracle, dear Elena. Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, besought Jesus to come and heal his only daughter, 12 years old, who was at the point of death. Before he could attend to Jairus' request, he healed a woman who had a flow of blood. While he was speaking to the woman, a man from the ruler's house came and said, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher anymore." Jesus, on hearing this, answered, "Do not fear, only believe, and she shall be well." When he came to the house, he permitted no one to enter with him except Peter, John, James, the father and mother of the child. We are still continuing on the account, dear Elena. All were weeping and bewailing her. But he said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead but sleeping." They all laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. Taking her by the hand, he called, saying, "Child, arise." Her spirit returned, and she got up at once. He directed that something should be given to her to eat. Her parents were amazed, but he charged them to tell no one what had happened. Now let us look at our source, dear Elena, what we were talking about. Here is Jesus. Here are the disciples that we talked about. Here are the parents. This is the mother here, and then this is the father, and then also this is the daughter. Moving forward, now let us look at the significance of the miracle. It demonstrates Jesus' power over death. Again, we are saying it shows the unlimited power of Jesus. He can do anything. Has erased the dead daughter. It demonstrates Jesus' compassion towards humanity. Again, here, dear Lena, we are told that this daughter was the only daughter of Jairus. So now every parent has got a pride, or every parent would love to see his children growing up, having a family and getting married. So here Jesus knew that this daughter was the only daughter to Jairus, and then he felt compassion and ended up raising the daughter there. As children are our pride. Then it demonstrates Jesus' love for all, including marginalized women. Again, dear Lena, remember when we did our introduction, we were told that women were looked down upon. They were not considered as important people in the society. But we see here Jesus showing that everyone is important. He went to raise the woman who was Jairus' daughter. And then it's the only story where one miracle is interrupted by another miracle. Remember, dear Elena, what I said earlier when I introduced this one. I said it is a miracle within a miracle. Now, when Jairus went to seek help from Jesus, and then along the way, Jesus was disturbed by the woman with the flow of blood. Now here a sickness was reported, but Jesus, when he reached Jairus' daughter, he ended up addressing death. That is why then we are saying it was interrupted. Along the way, Jesus stopped and healed the woman with the flow of blood. While healing the woman, the girl died. Then moving forward, dear Elena, now let us look at the character of Jesus as revealed by the miracle. Again, we are saying Jesus is omnipotent. Jesus has power over death. Has got source of life. Again, we see here Jesus showing unlimited power, able to raise people from the dead. Compassionate. He intervened to curb the fear welling up in the broken-hearted father. Again, as we said earlier, that this was the only daughter. And then the father was very sad about what is happening to her child. So he was able to go and seek help. And then also Jesus felt compassion towards Jairus. And again, we are saying Jesus is humble. Jesus did not mind leaving his work and go to Jairus' house. What we know, dear Elena, is that when you are sick, you are the one who goes to the doctor. But here it is the other way around. Jesus went to Jairus' house. So we can see here that the doctor or the physician Jesus, he was humble. He was able to go to the patient. Then we are saying Jesus is discreet. Jesus did not want to be seen as a wonder worker. Why are we saying Jesus was discreet? He told the people there that after healing they mustn't tell anyone. Jesus didn't want to be seen as a miracle worker, because he was still on his mission. His glory was still to come, which is the resurrection. Then moving forward, dear Elena, now let us look at character of Jairus as revealed by the miracle. Now we say here Jairus is responsible, looked for help for his sick daughter. Just like any parent, when a child is sick, you don't just sit. You go out and look for help. And then we see here Jairus went to Jesus, asked Jesus to come and heal his only daughter. Again, Jairus is humble, came trembling and falling down before Jesus. Again, dear Elena, what we know about Jairus is that Jairus was a ruler of the synagogue. So in other words, Jairus was rich or belonged to the upper class. Now, when looking for help, Jairus went to a layman who was Jesus, as Jesus was known as a layman. So Jesus didn't consider, or in fact, Jairus didn't consider his social status. He went to a person of lower class for help. Then we can tell that Jairus is humble. Then we also say the character of Jairus, he has faith. Jairus believed that Jesus would help him. Now, maybe Jairus have tried to help her daughter, but he knew that the only person who was going to help her daughter was Jesus. So he went around and looked for Jesus, and he found him and asked him to come and heal his daughter. So he had faith in Jesus that Jesus was going to help him. Then again we are saying Jairus is enlightened, could see Jesus for who he really is, even though Jewish leaders did not. Again here, dear Elena, what we know is that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they did not believe in Jesus. Whatever Jesus did, they did not believe, they did not take kindly. They were always in opposition. But here we see Jairus. Jairus did not consider that. Jairus was able to know, or Jairus was able to tell who Jesus was. So he was able to go to Jesus. He knew that the only help that he could get, it is from Jesus. Maybe Jairus had some of the miracles that Jesus did. For example, healing the leper, feeding of the 5,000, all the other miracles that Jesus did. So Jairus knew that Jesus is one of a kind. So he went to Jesus for help. Then moving forward, dear Elena, let us look at the nature of Jesus as revealed by the miracles. Now, we are going to first look at the divine nature. His ability to raise the dead. As we have said earlier, that Jesus has got unlimited power. Nothing is impossible with him. He can do anything, as he was able to raise the dead there. As we are talking about the raising of Jairus' daughter and also the raising of the widow's son. Again, dear Elena, under divine nature, Jesus was not shaken by death. We all know that when someone is dead, he is dead. There is no way that that person can rise. But here we see Jesus, he was not shaken. He simply went to let us first look at the widow's son. He simply went to the pier and stopped the people there. And he told the person to rise, the son to rise. Simple as that. To him, Jesus, it is just sleep, ordinary sleep. So he was not shaken. Again, in the raising of Jairus' daughter, when he was told that when the servant came and reported to Jairus that he mustn't bother the master anymore as the daughter is dead, Jesus was not shaken. He only told Jairus that he mustn't fear. He is not dead but sleeping. Then let us come to human nature. Jesus had empathy. He aligned himself with those in pain. Now, when Jesus saw the pain of these people, he acted upon the pain. He was able to give the people an answer, or to give the people what they want, or to do away with the pain. So in other words, Jesus showed the practicality there. Then he mingled with people. There was always a crowd around him. Jesus was welcoming. He did not chase the people who came to him seeking help. So we are saying he mingled, he was welcoming. Then he broke some Jewish laws, he touched a dead person. As we have said earlier, dear Lena, according to Jewish tradition, you were not supposed to touch a corpse, as that would make you unclean. Remember, when again we did previous lessons, we said Jesus was considered as a lawbreaker. So in the breaking of the law, Jesus was trying to show the people that the law is not important. What is important here, it is a proportion. Then moving forward, dear Elena, now let us look at lesson learned from the miracle. Number 1, we must have mercy and compassion to those who are suffering. Prayer alone is not enough. The help that we give must be practical, as we have said earlier. Identify the need of that person. Maybe it is money or clothes or food or whatever. Make sure that you do away with the problem. We must have compassion, not sympathy. Again, Christians should humble themselves if they are to be rewarded. Again, dear Elena, here we see that Jairus was rich, belonged to the upper class. He got help from the laymen. So again, what we see here is that we mustn't consider our social status. Think that so and so cannot help me because of ABC or the kind of work that person is doing. So we must always seek help from anyone, just like Jairus. Then turn to God in times of hardship. We all know that all our answers are in God. So God is the answer in everything. Christians should act upon their faith. Again, dear Ellen, we mustn't just sit and wait for a miracle to happen. Let us emulate Jairus. Jairus went out and seek for help. So it is a challenge to us that as Christians, we should act upon our faith. Go out and seek help. Believe that everything one day will be sorted. Then, dear Elena, let us look at the assessment. Here are some questions, dear Elena, which I would like you to do. Let us look at the first one. Narrate the story of the raising of Jairus' daughter. Roman figure 2. Jesus raised Jairus' daughter. Explain 3 lessons that can be learned about Jesus' character from this event. And then evaluation question. Do you think the miracles of this nature still happen? Give reasons for your answer and show you have thought about different points of view. I hope my dear Lena will be able to answer those questions. Then in conclusion, dear Lena, we have looked at a raising of the son of the widow of Nain, and also raising of Jairus' daughter. We also looked at the significance of both miracles. We also looked at characters of Jesus and Jairus. We also looked at divine and human nature of Jesus. We also looked at lessons learned from both miracles. So for our next lesson, dear Elena, please go and look at or read a parable of the friend at midnight, which is in Luke chapter 11 verse 5 to 8, and also parable of unjust judge, which is Luke chapter 18 verse 1 to 8. It is found in pages 61 and 65. Thank you very much, dear Elena at home.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngumalo, for your lovely lesson. We're hoping your Form 4s enjoyed it, and we're wishing you a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Form 4s, please do not go anywhere. Up next is your teacher Mluleki Simelane with biology. We will be right back after this.
We're going to learn about what water is made of, where we can find it in the world, develop an understanding about how water is on a continuous journey called the water cycle. Are you ready? Let's go!
How do we hear? How do we see? What makes up the air we breathe? How does a plane fly over the sea? How How do the planets float so weightlessly?
Let's go! Let's go!
It's technology.
Let's go! Let's grow!
Science, you and me.
Let's go! Let's go!
We're learning every day.
Let's go! Let's grow!
And you lead the way.
Watch the brightest talent search in the land on Eswatini TV every Sunday at 5 p.m. The Spotlight. Put me on.
Welcome back to Home Study live on Eswatini TV. A very good afternoon to you if you have just joined us. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini. Right now we're doing Form 4 Biology with Mr. Mluleki Simelane, who is already with me in the studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nogwazi. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much.
Myself.
Today we're doing plant nutrition.
Yes.
Mineral requirements.
True.
Okay, what are you expecting your Form 4s to have learned by the end of this lesson?
I expect my learner to be able to describe both nitrate and magnesium ions in terms of their uses in plants, to investigate the necessity for magnesium and nitrate ions, and also to look into different ways in which you can supplement these nutrients in plants.
All right, thank you so much for that, Form 4s. I hope you are ready for your lesson. And just a reminder that we are not only live on Eswatini TV, but we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, Form 4s, please feel free to use the WhatsApp number. You may please begin with your lesson.
Thank you very much, Nogwazi. So my learner, I hope by now you have been exposed to various farming practices either at home or that you have studied at school. Some of you are studying agriculture, so you are very well exposed to agriculture. So you know that there are different farming practices. Different farmers may use different types of fertilizers to fertilize their plants. So I hope you'll be able by the end of this lesson to answer why we do that and different ways in which we can fertilize our plants. Now let us move on. Maybe before we continue with today's topic on mineral requirements, we can recap the whole topic on plant nutrition, since mineral requirements is our last subtopic on this broader section. We've already discussed photosynthesis. I hope my learner recalls that we define photosynthesis as a fundamental process in which plants manufacture simple sugars using carbon dioxide as well as water in the presence of light energy and chlorophyll. So in light of this, I also hope you can recall both the word and the chemical equation for photosynthesis. Remember, we said the chemical equation for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light energy and chlorophyll to release glucose as well as oxygen. So I hope you recall that. We've also discussed the starch test on a leaf, how one can perform the starch test. I hope you still remember that the use of boiling the leaf in water. Firstly, before doing that, distarching the leaf. Why do we do that? Boiling the leaf in water, boiling it in ethanol, rinsing the leaf and placing it on a white tile to add drops of iodine solution. We've also discussed the necessity for chlorophyll, light as well as carbon dioxide for photosynthesis using various practical procedures as well as controls in our experiments. We further defined the term limiting factor. We defined it as an external factor which restricts the effects of others. So if there are a number of factors, it is the one that is in shortest supply. We also investigated and described the effects of varying light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration on the rate of photosynthesis. In our last lesson, we discussed the structure of a dicotyledonous leaf. So I hope you recall that we said a dicotyledonous leaf contains, amongst other things, a waxy cuticle, an epidermis on either ends of the leaf, a palisade mesophyll region, which is responsible for photosynthesis, a spongy mesophyll region, as well as air spaces in between the spongy mesophyll region and gut cells, which form a stomata. So now let us move on to today's lesson. We are discussing mineral ions. So mineral ions are naturally occurring in organic substances. So they occur naturally. Plants cannot manufacture these mineral ions, yet they are very important in the plant. They serve various purposes, which we are still going to discuss today. So these mineral ions are actively absorbed from the soil through the root hair cells. I hope you recall what root hair cells are when we discussed our topic on specialized cells. So these minerals are used together with the carbohydrates, which are manufactured by the plant through photosynthesis. You remember that carbohydrates are manufactured through the process of photosynthesis. So they are used together with that to make various biological molecules. So moving on, my dear learner, the first mineral ion that we are going to discuss are nitrate ions. So nitrates are a huge source of nitrogen in plants. So the nitrogen is needed by the plant to manufacture amino acids. You remember that amino acids are monomers or building blocks. You remember this name, monomer, are building blocks. They are building blocks of proteins. So these proteins are needed by the plant for growth as well as for tissue repair. So nitrates are absorbed in solution in water. So they dissolve in water because they are soluble. They are soluble ions. So they dissolve in water and are absorbed together with the water. So they serve the basic function of providing proteins which are needed for growth as well as for tissue repair. Another ion that we discuss are magnesium ions. Magnesium ions are needed by the plant to manufacture chlorophyll. You will recall that chlorophyll is the green pigment that is responsible for trapping light energy needed for photosynthesis. So without the chlorophyll, it is nearly impossible for the plant to be able to photosynthesize. Hence, it cannot make its own food. Thus, it will die because it cannot manufacture any food from its leaves. So chlorophyll that is manufactured using magnesium is very useful for that. You'll also note that because magnesium is relatively found in smaller quantities in the soil compared to the plant, therefore it is absorbed by a process known as active transport. Once again, because of the nature of our syllabus, these terms keep popping up time and time again. We have discussed active transport under our topic movement in and out of cells. So I hope my dear learner recalls what active transport is at home. So we define active transport for the sake of my student who has forgotten as the movement of particles from a region of their, so this is crucial, it's a region of their lower concentration to a region of their higher concentration using energy from respiration. So the absorption of magnesium requires energy that is produced or released in the plant through the process of respiration. So we can summarize and say magnesium absorption is an energy consuming process. Moving on, my dear learner, sometimes it can happen that in a plant there is a deficiency of either of these two ions. It could be the nitrate ions or the magnesium ions. So if there is a deficiency, that means there is a shortage of that ion. The plant will start to develop and exhibit certain deficiency symptoms. So we're going to look at some of these deficiency symptoms that can occur in plants. First, we'll look at the deficiency symptoms that may arise due to nitrate ions. So nitrate ions deficiency, the chlorophyll content of leaves is reduced and the lower leaves turn yellow in color, and this is known as chlorosis. The upper leaves will turn pale green. We'll discuss why that is so a little bit later. Another thing that we observe is stunted growth. The stunted growth, and the plant looks thin and pale. So we can say it is generally malnourished. So let us recall that again. The lower leaves turn yellow in color, and we call that chlorosis. The upper leaves turn pale green. There is stunted growth. Plant looks thin and pale. For the sake of the learner who may be confused as to what are lower leaves and upper leaves, we are talking about the general positioning of the leaves in the plant. So those closer to the ground are the lower leaves. And you'll observe that usually the older leaves are at the bottom of the plant, and then the upper leaves are the generally newer leaves. So that is an example of nitrate ion deficiency. You can observe the plant on your left hand side is generally healthy looking, whereas the plant on your right hand side, the upper leaves, they look yellow, the lower leaves are pale green, they are yellow. And recall, we said this process is known as chlorosis. And then the plant generally looks weak. You can see that the plant on your left hand side is a little bit taller and it looks firm, so it's a healthy plant. So another example of a tomato plant that exhibits deficiency symptoms, you can see once again the upper leaves, they look yellow, and the lower leaves are a pale green color. Maybe let us explain why it is the lower leaves that turn pale green and the upper leaves turn yellow, because the plant no longer has the proteins which are required for growth and tissue repair. Hence, the newer leaves that are developing as the plant grows cannot have enough nitrates. Since they do not have enough nitrates, nitrates are also a part of the chlorophyll content of the leaf. Hence, the leaf will be yellow in color. It shows that there is a shortage of chlorophyll in that leaf. Now let us move on and discuss magnesium ion deficiency. So once again, the lower leaves are first affected, yellowing from the tip downwards. Sometimes dead spots may appear on the leaf, and the ability of the plant to photosynthesize is diminished greatly. So I hope you observe the differences between the two ion deficiencies. With the nitrate ion deficiency, the upper leaves will turn yellow, which is chlorosis, and the lower leaves turn pale green. Whereas with the magnesium ion deficiency, it is the lower leaves that are first affected, and the yellow from the tip downwards. So we'll look at that as we look into different images. So there is an example of a magnesium ion deficiency in an orange leaf. You can see that the yellowing is starting in this direction and it is headed in that direction. So as it progresses, even this part of the plant will be affected. So I hope you observe the differences. So the other leaves have not yet been greatly affected. It is just these two. The yellow from the tip downwards to the leaf stalk. So the reason that happens, my learner, is because magnesium is sometimes recycled from these older leaves. So if there's a shortage of magnesium ions in the plant, it will be taken from the older leaves, which are the lower leaves, and is going to be used in the manufacture of chlorophyll for the newer leaves. Hence the chlorophyll, the magnesium is taken from the older leaves. That is why they are the first to yellow. And then the magnesium is now used to manufacture chlorophyll in the newer leaves. So I hope you note the difference between nitrate ion deficiency as well as magnesium ion deficiency. Now let us move on. Sometimes you can be asked in a laboratory setting to investigate the effects of magnesium and nitrate ion deficiency. So it is not enough to only recall what happens when a plant is in short supply of magnesium ions or nitrate ions. Sometimes you may be asked to tell us how can we investigate such in a laboratory setting. So in order for us to do that, my dear learner, we need 3 test tubes. We are going to label our test tubes A, B and C. What we also need is a culture solution. So basically we need 3 culture solutions. The first culture solution is what we call a complete culture solution. A complete culture solution. So it is a solution that contains all the mineral ions which are necessary for healthy plant growth. They are also present in their correct proportions. So this culture solution is going to be our A. Then we also need a second culture solution which contains all the mineral ions except nitrates. And we are going to label this culture solution our B. And lastly, we need a third culture solution which contains all mineral ions except magnesium. And we label this third culture solution as C. Now let us move on. Since we've prepared our 3 test tubes, you can place them in a test tube rack, and you've labeled them A, B and C, and you add the culture solutions on each test tube. So you add culture solution A onto test tube A, culture solution B onto test tube B, as well as culture solution C onto test tube C. And then you select 3 healthy 1-week-old maize seedlings. They should be of roughly equal size. So they must be identical. It shouldn't be a huge gap in their growth or height. And you carefully remove the endosperm from each grain so that the maize plant does not have an alternative source of food. The endosperm, my learner, is a store of food in the seed. So each seed has got an endosperm. That is where the germinating seedling acquires its food. So once you have removed the endosperm, you have left the plant with no other option to get its food except from the culture solution that you have put into the test tube. After doing that, you put each seedling in the 3 test tubes and you support them with a dry cotton wool. And in order for you to do that, you must ensure that the roots of the seedlings are well immersed into the test tube. And you now leave your experiment in the laboratory for about roughly 3 weeks. But before you do that, you cover the test tube with a black paper or an aluminium foil. And the purpose of the aluminium foil is to prevent light from passing through, hence encouraging the growth of algae in the test tube. After you've done that, you have to constantly check, maybe roughly after 2 days, you constantly check differences, whether in height of the 3 seedlings, differences in leaf length, differences in color of the leaves. So you observe those and you note them down. And then after that, you can come and collect your results and you observe the differences in the 3 seedlings. Now let us try to discuss the results and any conclusions that we can draw from this. You'll observe that the seedlings that were growing in test tube A with a complete culture solution, remember that, are tall, they are steady, and they've got large dark green leaves. So these, we can conclude that they are healthy seedlings because they had all the nutrients and in their correct proportions. Remember, when we talk about nutrition, it is not only important that the plant acquires the correct nutrients, but the proportions should be in the amount needed by the plant. So the seedlings in test tube B now, which had a nitrate deficient culture, had stunted growth. So you expect them to be shorter than those in test tube A, because our test tube A acted as a control for the experiment. You also expect them to have weak stems. The lower leaves will be yellow and others may be dying, and the upper leaves will be pale green. So it shows that the plant did not have enough nitrate ions. So it was deficient of the nitrate ions. And then in the last test tube C, you'll observe that the seedlings in the magnesium deficient culture were unable to make chlorophyll. As a result, the leaves were small and they turned yellow from the bottom of the stem upwards. So those in the lower part of the stem were more yellow than those in the upper part of the stem. And remember, we said this process is known as chlorosis. So you can see that both magnesium ions and nitrate ions are very necessary for healthy plant growth. Sometimes it can happen that nitrate ions are supplemented by the farmer because they are in very small quantities than those that are required by the plant. We'll note that nitrate ions, we have said, are soluble ions. So they can easily leach away from the soil and be washed away. For example, it's summer now, it's raining. So the rain, as it falls on the ground, it can wash away these nitrate ions into river streams and other water sources, causing a process known as eutrophication. We'll discuss eutrophication as we continue with our biology lessons under the topic of water pollution. But now let us just focus on the nitrate ions. So the farmer has to supplement these ions that are now easily leached away from the soil. So in order for the farmer to do that, there are various alternatives which we are going to exhaust today. One of these alternatives is the use of artificial fertilizers. So there are many fertilizers that contain nitrate ions in them. One example that we know is limestone ammonium nitrate, LAN. So that's one of them, limestone ammonium nitrate. Another one that maybe we can talk about is 232. It could be either 23222. So we know that the first two represents the ratio of the nitrate ions. The N is the nitrogen content in that plant, in that fertilizer. So these are the alternatives that a farmer has, artificial fertilizers. The advantage, Mylena, of using artificial fertilizers is that the nitrogen content in that fertilizer, it could be a 50 kg bag, is known by the farmer. So you know how much nitrogen you are adding to the plant. So it minimizes the danger of the farmer destroying the plants by burning them with too much or either supplying less than the plant requires. So it's best because we know the quantities of the nitrate ions we are putting there. The 23222, you can be able to calculate that only 2 out of 7 is nitrogen. So in the ratio, it's 23222. So you can be able to calculate the ratio of nitrate ions. As well as limestone ammonium nitrate, sometimes in the bag you can see it's written LAN38. So only 38% of that 50 kg bag contains nitrogen. So you are able to know how much nitrate ions you are supplying into the crop. Another alternative, if the artificial fertilizers are not available to the farmer, we can use crawl manure. So in our homesteads, when we grow maize, we sometimes use crawl manure to supply or supplement the nitrate ion quantities in the field. The danger of this is that you do not know how much you are supplying. So there is always the danger of destroying your crop by using this crawl manure. Another option available to the farmer is the use of legumes. Legumes are crops including beans, groundnuts. So they contain root nodules in their roots. So the root nodules contain a bacteria that fixes the nitrogen into the soil. So we call that bacteria nitrogen fixing bacteria. So the nitrogen fixing bacteria will fix the nitrogen into the soil and allow the nitrogen content to be available to the other crops that you will grow. So sometimes a farmer may use a crop rotation system. You can plant your maize, the following season you can plant potatoes, after that you plant beans. So the beans replenish the soil by supplying the nitrate ions. So they are available to the next crop you are going to grow. Another option available to the farmer is what we call green manuring. So green manuring, you are growing a plant solely for the purpose of plowing it back into the soil to supplement the nitrate ion content. So that's another option. So we've discussed artificial fertilizers. We've also discussed crawl manure as an option. You can also look into the advantages of using crawl manure. Crop manure is advantageous in that not only does it supply the nitrate ions, but there are microorganisms that can put back into the soil. There's also the option of improving the soil structure using the crop manure. So I hope you observe that. We've also discussed green manuring as well as the use of leguminous crops in a crop rotation system. So I hope you are able to observe that. So I have for you, my learner at home, an evaluation question that we can discuss. We'll look into it briefly and discuss the possible outcomes. The question says, plants need mineral salts for normal, healthy growth. Complete the table by naming 2 minerals that plants need and stating their functions. So the question is in two stages. First, you have to name 2 minerals and you also have to state their functions. Where you may be exposed to various kinds of minerals that are used by the plant for healthy growth. But for the purpose of your syllabus, please stick to the 2, the nitrate ions and the magnesium ions. So you can write and say it's magnesium, that's the first one, and then the second one is nitrate ions. Please stick to the nitrate ions, not the nitrogen. Although what we're interested in from the nitrate ions is the nitrogen, but the plant cannot absorb nitrogen from the soil. It is absorbed in the form of nitrate ions mainly. So please stick to that. So now the functions of the magnesium. We said magnesium is useful in chlorophyll synthesis. It is useful in chlorophyll synthesis. I hope you recall that. Whereas nitrate ions are useful in protein synthesis. Sometimes others may choose to say in the manufacture of proteins. So I hope you have understood what we've covered today, but for the sake of some, let us recap what we've discussed in today's lesson. We've discussed the use of mineral ions to enhance plant growth. We said there are magnesium ions which are used for chlorophyll synthesis and nitrate ions which are used for protein synthesis. We also discussed deficiency symptoms for magnesium. We said the yellowing of lower leaves from the tip downwards, and there are also dead patches on leaves. Whereas the deficiency of nitrogen causes stunted growth as well as leaf chlorosis. Sometimes there could be a pale stem. We also discussed a practical procedure to investigate the effect of an iron deficiency on plant growth. Remember, my learner, we said you use 3 cultures. The first culture is what we call a complete culture solution. So it contains all the mineral ions necessary for plant growth. The second one is a nitrate ion deficient culture solution, and the third one is a magnesium ion deficient culture solution. And we said the A, which is the first, the complete culture solution, is what we call the control for our experiment. And we said in order for us to do that, we can use maize seedlings. So in the maize seedlings, you remove the endosperm. Carefully remove the endosperm. We say the endosperm is the food store. So it ensures that the seedling has no other alternative source of food except the culture solution. And we said you put this in a cotton wool and immerse into a test tube. And then after that, you observe for about 2 weeks what happens. So each and every 2 days you come, you collect your results. You could observe the height of the seedlings, you could observe the root development, you could observe the leaf color as well as the leaf length, and then after that you draw your conclusions. We said for the first culture solution, the plant is steady, it is well grown, as well as it has dark green leaves. Whereas the B, which is the nitrate ion deficient culture solution, the plant has got lower leaves that are pale green and the upper leaves are yellow, and we call this chlorosis. And then the last one, we said it is the magnesium ion deficient culture solution, which has yellow leaves from the lower part. My dear learner, we've come to the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stay tuned for our next biology lesson in the coming days we will discuss human nutrition this time. Nogwazi.
Thank you so much, Muleki, for your lovely lesson. Of course, we're hoping your Form 4s enjoyed it, and we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
Hopefully so. Nogwazi.
Thank you so much, viewers at home. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the show. I'm hoping you had a lovely day of learning, and of course, are looking forward to Tuesday afternoon. And this is what your Tuesday timetable looks like. From 2 p.m. until 2:30 p.m., we have the grade 0 lesson. From 2:30 p.m. until 3 p.m. we have practical arts for the grades 3 and 4. From 3 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. we have science for the grades 5 and 6. From 3:30 p.m. until 4 p.m. we have literature for the Form 1s and the Form 2s. From 4 p.m. until 4:30 p.m. we have physics for the Form 4s. And the last lesson for the day is mathematics for the Form 4s from 4:30 p.m. until 5 p.m. And to just remind you that not only are we live from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. on Eswatini TV, but we're also live on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. And of course, speaking about our YouTube channel, please do not forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel, and of course to click on that bell to get any notifications of when we are live. And of course to use the WhatsApp number to text us any questions that you might have. Now from me and the team, I will see you guys tomorrow, 2 p.m. sharp. Bye!